But that effectively is the end of the Irish Constitution if we vote yes.
It is, yeah, and it's the end of that direct rule, because the Constitution was the point at which the people directly govern themselves, and also it will supersede anything from our Oireachtas, so even our indirect governance.
Not one article about this. Can you imagine this? Not one. Normally, you have the biggest articles about, Britney Spears or some totally irrelevant thing. There are campaigns and articles, but here you are basically talking about the elimination of democracy, and there was no debate in the media. So what does that tell you about the media? Maybe they are as controlled as during the times of Goebbels.
But I said, I'll tell you, if we keep going to the Irish people and telling them they're going to laugh at us or trying to make them afraid, etc., I said, that doesn't go down well with people. That's not respecting. Come out with proper arguments, come out and show them the treaty. He said, because you could turn them into no voters simply because of those kind of tactics. Well, I said to Charlie that co-invented. And he's a funny guy. He's the co-president of the Greens in the Parliament. And he had been a student radical, violently participating in the Paris riots as a college student. And then he was an MEP for France, and now he's an MEP for Germany. But he put a big article in the Irish Times saying that if we vote no, we'll be kicked out of Europe. And I said, so I said that to Charlie. And he said, oh. And I said, well, Charlie, you know as well as I do, there is absolutely no legal possibility. There is no way to kick somebody out of Europe.
Yeah. I don't remember France getting kicked out of Europe when they voted no on the treaty.
No, but they
can't
do it. They can't do it.
They can't get it into put it into law without unanimity among the 27. And they can't expel. It's not a question of being expelled from the EU or anything like that. We've got all the existing treaties would remain in being, and we'd have our full rights and entitlements under them. But we'd have said no to this new treaty.
And the other point, of course, is the sheer financial point, that this place is thick with institutional corruption.
So how does the game work? If you are lucky enough to get elected to the European Parliament, how do you get your hands on all that cash? Well, it's easy. Let's play Euro MP Millions and find out.
If you use all the possibilities that there are, you can earn more than any prime minister in Europe. You can earn up to almost 20,000 euros net income per month.
You could now buy a cheap airline ticket to come to Strasbourg for about £45 return. When you get here, you're reimbursed nearly £800 for the cost of that flight. Now, this has been going on for the last 20 years, and of course what's happened is that our members of the European Parliament simply haven't been talking about it. The system is fraudulent, it's rotten to the core.
Wow, and that's tax-free. The first scam is a bit of office politics. Let's call it the Euro Bureau bluff. MEPs get about £130,000 a year to help pay for staff costs. Now, according to a secret internal audit, some MEPs are claiming the full amount without actually employing anybody, and some are channeling money to their political parties. One MEP who's seen the report says it stinks.
This report is simply scandalous. There's no question in my mind that it could well lead to the prosecution and imprisonment of some MEPs. Although they're not named in this report, the auditors have already made clear, the Anti-Fraud Office has made clear that it can get hold of the names of the individuals from the Parliament's auditors and that they will pursue the matter.
The second Euro MP Millions scam is the Daily Diddle. MEPs can get £180 a day to pay for their subsistence in Brussels or Strasbourg. They get the money just for turning up. Apparently, though, some sign in and then push off. One MEP tried to film some of his colleagues doing this and was, as a result, shunned. One perk that's not about to go, though, is the pensions pilfer. MEPs not only get the same extremely generous smoked salmon final salary scheme that UK MPs get, but they can, and most do, opt into an extra special European Parliament pension. And boy, is it extra special. The MEP contributes about £8,000 a year, and the EU puts in another £16,000 on top. But here's the kicker. The MEP's contribution is taken not out of their pay, but out of their office expenditure allowance, for which they don't have to provide any receipts. Now, they are supposed to reimburse it with their own money, but, you know, MEPs are busy people and sometimes they forget, and so, you know, who's going to find out?
The EU's pilfering of airline expenses and the extravagant waste of taxpayers' money on schmoozing and boozing MEPs into compliance is of course serious enough, but there's a lot more. There's the endemic corruption that has existed at the heart of the Union from the outset.
The whole thing is corrupt to the core. The scale of the corruption, the figure given in the House of Lords Committee was that it was £6,000 million worth of corruption in a single year. Their accounts haven't been signed off for the last 8 years. Why would anyone wish to be governed by something which is utterly corrupt? It is beyond belief.
And I think, quite honestly, all these MEPs in Brussels, we are going to have an awful job trying to break this down simply because they're on a cushy little number. And that has always been the problem with not only the MEPs but our own government. They're too busy feathering their own nest.
In 1998, a man called Paul van Buitenen, who worked in the European Commission, decided that fraud, waste, mismanagement, corruption and nepotism had become so bad that no longer could he hold his peace, and he went public and became the first whistleblower. It turned out that in fact all of his claims were right, and the entire European Commission were forced to resign in disgrace. The president of that commission, Jacques Santer, is now here as a member of the European Parliament for Luxembourg. And Commissioner Kinnock, who was one of the 20 that had to resign, is now a vice president of the European Union and has been put in charge of sorting out fraud. Well, how well has he done? Well, there's now another whistleblower. Her name's Marta Andreasen. She went to Commissioner Kinnock. She said, look, I'm sorry, Commissioner Kinnock, but I cannot sign off these accounts. You're using a cash-based system. You're not using double-entry bookkeeping, which incidentally was invented in the late 14th century. She said, I cannot sign off these accounts as being a true and accurate record of the EU's finances, and for her trouble, she's been suspended pending an investigation.